Welcome to episode 3, Who to Call First and Why the Order Matters. Welcome back to the BioClean in New Jersey podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andrew Yurchuck, owner and CEO of BioClean of New Jersey.
And you already know me. I'm Kevin Bicking, project manager with BioClean of New Jersey. In the last episode, we talked about insurance, what's typically covered, and what's not, and why understanding that matters during a biohazard or a trauma situation.
Today, we're going to talk about something just as important, but much more practical. Who do you call first? Because when something tragic happens, most people don't freeze because they don't care. They freeze because they don't know what the next step is. And the order that you make those first calls can shape how everything unfolds afterwards. So let's get into it.
Now, let's talk about the most common instinct. Once a scene has been cleared by police and medical professionals, a lot of people instinctively call their insurance company first. And that does make sense for someone who doesn't face these kinds of situations every day. Insurance feels like the official, first place to start, but it isn't always the case. People want to do the responsible thing and immediately look for guidance, in efforts to make sure they're not making a mistake. I'm going to hand it off to Andrew. With over 35 years in this line of work, he's the industry's best insurance expert here.
When you call the insurance company first, they only have your description of the situation. They don't have photos, they don't have measurements, no professional assessment, no real context to what the problem is. Just a conversation happening while you're still in shock and experiencing panic and anxiety. And in the moment, people could minimize what happened while also minimizing the severity of the scene. They could use the wrong terminology or not even realize what details actually matter.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning, it's not because they're dishonest, but because they're overwhelmed. It's easy to miss certain details or even the grand scale of the job that needs to be done.
Remember, this isn't a regular kind of cleaning. This is a very specialized service.
So Andrew, why does that first conversation with the insurance company matter so much?
Insurance company decisions are often shaped by how an incident is first described. Like, was this a sudden and unexpected problem, or was this a long-term, ongoing issue? Was it an accident, or was it due to neglect over time? Is there visible contamination? Is there contamination that isn't visible? Fluids tend to leak through floors. They get into the walls and get into the tiniest cracks and crevices, such as under toilets and behind baseboard trim. Is there any structural impact or any rebuild needed after the cleanup? These distinctions matter, and they can be hard for people to explain clearly when there's a flood of emotions and trying to process what just happened. Once something is documented in a certain way, it can be difficult to undo or reframe later. That's why the order that you report the claim really matters.
Yeah, and so what we've always recommended is calling a licensed cleanup company first. Andy, let's have you explain to the listeners why that's typically the best practice and how it can save them time and maybe a few headaches later on.
When you call a licensed biohazard cleanup company, like BioClean in New Jersey, you're not committing to anything, really. You're just gathering information. That's the primary objective of an estimate, and we come out and assess the scene in person, which is way better than pictures.
Pictures can tell 1,000 stories, but they often leave a lot of things out.
I completely agree. We identify the type and extent of damage and contamination. We determine what materials are affected, doing an extensive inspection to make sure that we don't leave any possibilities out. As we've mentioned before, fluids can get into places you wouldn't even think of. We do this all to create an estimate based on real conditions, get exact measurements, and document any and all of the affected areas. The assessment gives you facts instead of guesses. It also allows us to explain calmly and clearly what insurance company covers in situations like this, what may cause red flags, and what questions you should be asking your carrier.
So now, instead of calling your insurance company in a panic, you're calling them with clarity, strength, and knowledge, essentially. This completely changes the tone, the feeling of the entire conversation that you'll have with the insurance company for the better.
Correct, Kevin. When clients speak to their insurance carrier after an assessment, the conversation is completely different. The client's able to describe the incident accurately and go into detail what's actually affected. It takes all the guesswork out of the equation for both the client and the insurance representative. We use correct terminology. Wrong terminology can be detrimental to a claim. You don't want to say the wrong thing that could potentially work against you and even have the result of having your claim being denied. You'll be able to reference professional findings and make sure you can accurately relay them to the insurance representative. In fact, one of the things that we do is we offer the service of contacting the insurance company on your behalf. You would have to give them authorization for the claims representative to speak with us. But after that, we take the complete burden off of our client.
Yes, and just as important, you'll be able to ask informed questions instead of accepting assumptions. This is also huge to make sure you're receiving exactly what's owed to you and to your home or office, making sure it's restored back to normalcy while being safe to inhabit.
All in all, your correspondence with the insurance company and the insurance company representative becomes a conversation and doesn't feel like a one-sided interrogation. And just as important, clients understand what insurance companies are deciding and why. Even when coverage is denied, there's less confusion, less shock, and less feeling blindsided. Knowledge reduces the panic and anxiety.
I do want to make a very important clarification. Calling us first doesn't mean that we control the insurance company's decision. We don't approve claims. We cannot promise coverage. And at the end of the day, we don't get to make the decisions for any insurance company. What we do is make sure you're not walking into that process blind and give you all the tools needed to help ensure you have a successful claim. It's also worth mentioning that we don't pressure people into work. Our role is guidance, not sales. Now, you might be wondering, what if insurance still says no? Andy, I'll let you take it from there.
Even when the insurance company denies coverage, calling a cleanup company first still helps. One, early on, you know that you don't have coverage. Two, you understand the reasoning behind not having coverage. And three, you're not left scrambling at the last minute, wondering, whether this is going to be an item that is going to be covered. We give you options. And when people have options, they can make better educated decisions, calmly instead of out of fear.
Now, some final thoughts before we bring this to a close. Most of the stress you'll see isn't caused by the cleanup itself. I think you'll agree on this, Andy. It's caused by uncertainty, not knowing who to call, not knowing what to say, and not knowing what's coming next. Sometimes the most important thing we provide isn't cleaning at all. It's clarity, guidance, a listening ear sometimes, and calmness when the rest of the world feels like it's caving in.
Thanks for listening to the BioClean of New Jersey podcast. If you're facing a situation and don't know where to start, reach out to us. We're here to help. We'll help you take the correct next step calmly, professionally, and without pressure.